No place on Earth is free of danger. Even civilization is a jungle of hazards, some armored in steel. For all our safeguards, each one of us must be ever vigilant, or disaster can result. Even in our human world, survival is never completely secure. And the fossil record stored in rocks beneath our feet tells us that life has long been a dark proposition of eat or be eaten. 450 million years ago, the ancient sea was a battlefield. Tough-skinned trilobites were among the most abundant animals. Their numbers were decimated when new predators grew as large and fierce as sharks. The giant nautiloid had a rock-hard shell, a mass of writhing arms, and a killer beak. It dominated the sea. But competitors were evolving as well. Huge sea scorpions were ready for battle, armed with razor-sharp claws. Competition forced all kinds of animals to find new ways to defend themselves and to survive. How has this ongoing arms race, a struggle begun hundreds of millions of years ago, affected the shape of life as we know it today? Scientist Gary Vermeij has managed to peer deeply into this mystery.
All animals endure an arms race. All organisms endure an arms race. We have bacteria and antibiotics. That's kind of an arms race. We have shells and shell-breaking predators. That's a classic arms race. Everything in biology really is an arms race.
For Vermeij, one line of animals illustrates the effect of the arms race to an exceptional degree. Mollusks, like this garden snail. It's just one of over 150,000 different mollusks that flourish today. But when they first appeared, over 500 million years ago, mollusks were but tiny creatures, inching around under a protective shell. How did the struggle for survival create so many variations on their original body plan?
I think that a body plan can be pushed incredibly far. When you think about mollusks, they're everything from slow, tank-like snails to very, very fast squid, which have large brains and very, very good eyes. There is virtually nothing that you can't do with a molluscan body plan. It may take evolutionary time to get there, but you can get there.
The success of mollusks is remarkable, considering the array of predators against them. They face a world of attackers, hungry for their protein-rich, sweet-tasting flesh. But mollusks have survived, because their body parts manage to change as new challenges arise. The basic toolkit of a mollusk is evident in the abalone. Most mollusks have some kind of foot. For many, including the abalone, the foot muscle bestows mobility. When the foot brings them to food, mollusks eat by using a unique rasping tongue called a radula. Covering the vital organs is a fold of skin called the mantle. It's the mantle that secretes the trademark body armor of so many mollusks, the shell.
For me, the most amazing thing about mollusks is I suppose, their sheer beauty. The diversity on a simple theme of spiral growth. How much you can do with a simple theme like spiral growth. They show all these wonderful variations. It's kind of like listening to Bach all your life.
Blind since childhood, Gary Vermeer has been able to decipher millions of years of history with his fingertips. His fascination with shells began at the age of 9 in a moment of wonder.
I was first shown some shells from Florida by my 4th grade teacher. I was overwhelmed with their beauty. You know, they had such smooth interiors and such rather nicely sculptured and shaped exteriors. The contrasts were beautiful, the ribbing was even, and the whole thing just struck me as a real work of art. And I never turned back. I mean, that was, for me, the beginning of a career, really.
Hi, Eric.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, fine.
I have the Ferrari.
Oh, good.
Like a detective, Vermeer searches for clues to the stories hidden in shells. His work has revealed the life and death struggles these animals face.
I think the world is fundamentally about competition. And predation is one very important form of competition. It's a world of, I want those resources, and I'm going to compete for those resources. And of course, the other side of the coin is that I want to defend myself.
At one of Vermeer's field sites, two kinds of arms races intersect. A mollusk battleground and a U.S. Navy training site share the same stretch of Southern California beach. Here, Vermeer looks for evidence of violent clashes between mollusks and their enemies.
Well. A dead piece of Calliostoma seems to have been broken by some animal. It's just so cleanly cut off. The shell was at some point insufficient as a defense against breakage. It would be the evidence of failure.
When that Calliostoma was alive, its lightweight shell helped in climbing tall stalks of seaweed. But on the sea floor, a thin shell offers little defense against a powerful shell breaker. When attacked by a crab, a Calliostoma withdraws far inside its spiral shell. But its brittle shield can't withstand the crunch of powerful claws.
One thing that I learned very early on is that no design in biology is ever perfect. And so there will be shells that are not up to the challenge, and there will be shells that are.
An abalone spends most of its life clamped to rocks. But when escape is necessary, its muscular foot sets out across the bottom. The foot is a biomechanical wonder. With no bones for support, it can stretch out to crawl while holding on at the same time. The abalone employs its foot when a dangerous adversary is close by, such as the many-armed predatory sea star Pycnopodia. The abalone could clamp itself down, but then it would face the slow, suffocating torture of Pycnopodia's death grip. So the abalone, using just one foot, attempts to outrun Pycnopodia, which has more than 10,000 tube feet, all moving with lockstep deliberation. Because the abalone's foot is attached to its shell, it can twist with powerful torque and wrench itself free when its pursuer catches up. But as it flees, the surge flips it over, leaving it vulnerable to the oncoming predator. With time running out, the abalone must get a suction foothold and right itself. This time, Pycnopodia will go hungry. A muscular foot has helped the abalone survive across the ages. But competition has driven other mollusks to turn this defensive tool into a weapon that kills. Along the shallow edges of the sea, shelled mollusks sometimes congregate in great numbers. Where cockles are abundant, they attract the attention of a more aggressive mollusk with a lethal taste for cockles. The moon snail can inflate its foot to 4 times the size of its entire shell. A foot that serves as both a burrowing tool and a predatory weapon. The cockle, however, has a few tricks of its own. Its foot is a powerful digger, but it can also kick away forcefully when danger approaches. To succeed, the moon snail must grab the cockle and hang on while its victim tries to buck itself free. If the moon snail loses its hold, it can also burrow down. And surprise a buried cockle. This time, the aggressor succeeds. the moon snail's enormous foot begins to smother the hapless cockle. Even a hard shell can't stop the well-equipped moon snail, which can drill right through to feed on the animal within. The need to procure a meal is a driving force in nature's arms race, and mollusks have evolved an astonishing variety of feeding tools for the job. Peering inside an abalone's mouth, we can see one of nature's brilliant and bizarre creations. It's called a radula, a rasping ribbon of teeth like a chainsaw blade. In some mollusks, these teeth contain a hard iron mineral that grants them supreme durability. This electron micrograph of the abalone's radula shows why it's so adept at tearing through kelp. Other mollusks have evolved radulas suited for different tastes. This one opens barnacle shells. This one can scrape through animal flesh. The compulsion to eat and to avoid being eaten has inspired endless invention. The war began among bottom dwellers confined to the sea floor. But 500 million years ago, mollusks took the arms race into another dimension. An innovative mollusk evolved the ability to swim by floating off the bottom. It was a miraculous step in the survival game. In the South Pacific, near the island of New Caledonia, an enormous coral reef has been growing steadily for millennia. The reef drops off suddenly here, descending more than 1,000 feet. These tropical waters teem with animals, and living alongside them is an amazing survivor. One of a few remaining nautiloids, a line of shelled mollusks that managed to rise up from the sea floor.
I was trained as a paleontologist, and yet the animals I study, ancient nautiloids, were to me but impressions in rock, and I really needed to see the living animal. And then I heard that there was one place on Earth where not only could you trap them, but if you were a diver and you were willing to dive at night outside the reef, you could see them.
Down we go.
Led by paleontologist Peter Ward, a team of scientists has come to New Caledonia in search of the chambered nautilus. Rarely seen, it rises from its deep home only at night to search for food.
Nautilus is an indication of an animal that has survived a world that has gotten more and more dangerous. You can see any nautilus shell has numerous breaks upon it. It's clear there's a very dangerous place to live, and yet this particular design, this body plan of the nautilus has gone through. It's really survived the millennia. Not many of its brethren did.
But can they find such an elusive creature? To do so, the scientists go fishing, sending baited traps 1,000 feet down the reef wall. At the end of the line they are hauling up, a nautilus will appear. They hope.
When you start seeing the traps coming up, you peer over the side and try to see, can I see? Yeah, they're any in there. 1, 2, 3, and you see a little brown, a little white. Yeah. Of course, the opposite of that is you raise it up and it's empty, and they're going, oh, 4-letter word. Oh, 4-letter word. Oh, 4-letter word. Yes, there we go. That's all. Here we got nautilus. That's all. 2. And a deep water shark.
Like living fossils, 2 nautilus are in the first trap.
Yes, yes, yes. Hello, my old friends. Look at it.
The strong Nautilus shell keeps the buoyant gas within at constant pressure, unlike the deep-water fish that came up with them.
All right, here's the difference between the Nautilus coming up and that fish. See that fish with the swim bladder out? That has come up so quickly that he didn't have time to pressurize, and so his guts have blown right out of his mouth. These Nautilus have come up from 1,000 feet. They're wonderful. They don't care. What a beautiful design difference.
Examining the Nautilus, we can see how evolution transformed a mere bottom feeder into a buoyant battleship. At its head, a mass of 90 or more muscular tentacles can extend from sheaths to seize its prey. Nautiloids found a way to swim by jet propulsion. Water is taken in and rapidly forced out of a funnel that steers and propels the Nautilus. It evolved from the ancient foot to become like a flexible exhaust pipe that also serves as a rudder. A thin sheet of muscle, the mantle, surrounds the internal organs, while at the same time secreting the hard calcium layers of its famous chambered shell. An ancient Nautilus was the original jaws, the first animal with vertically clamping mouthparts. Within this jaw is its radula, with teeth that can shred a lobster's discarded shell. Every feature of the Nautilus design is a legacy from its ancestors and the world they encountered. But what set this line of mollusks apart from all that came before was a key evolutionary breakthrough: buoyancy. For years, its secret was a mystery, until scientists took X-rays of a living Nautilus.
What makes Nautilus unique among the living mollusks today is that the shell is not a simple interior tube, but it is cut into a series of partitions. People began X-raying the animals, and early on it became apparent that not only is there air in the chambers, but there's water too.
New chambers are sealed off with seawater still inside them. In order to stay buoyant as it grows, the Nautilus must remove this seawater from its shell. To do so, it uses a tube called the siphuncle, which spirals through every chamber. Cells in this tube gradually pull the water into the animal's blood system, leaving only gas. The secret to maintaining buoyancy. 500 million years ago, a buoyant shell enabled the nautiloids to grow in size and dominate the seas.
So let's imagine now we're back right where the first nautiloids appear. The biggest, most complex, most common animals in the oceans are trilobites, and the majority of these are on the bottom. So now we evolve a large shelled predator that can swim like a fish. And let's imagine what airplanes did to warfare, and the Nautilus was the first armed airplane. It could swoop down, grab its prey, fly off. Can you imagine the havoc on these sea bottoms? Oh my gosh, what's that? Crash. And your food.
The last remaining descendants of these ancient warriors, equipped with many of the same weapons, still exist. Today they have become reclusive creatures, dwelling in the ocean depths. To see a nautilus swimming in the wild, Peter Ward must dive at night, when they rise to the reef under cover of darkness. French underwater photographer Pierre Laboute will join him to search the shadowy nighttime sea.
One thing that happens in night dives that is totally different is not simply you come up and say, there's the boat over there, because in the dark, you come up, you may not see the boat. So that is what you really think about.
With luck, before their flashlight batteries give out or their air tanks run empty, they'll meet a Nautilus on its way up the reef.
As soon as we turn our lights on, we have a sense of the bottom beneath us, but only as a spot. All else is dark around you, but that spotlight is illuminating fish in the midwater, you've got lots of shrimp, and at night the plankton in the coral reefs rises. So it's like diving through this incredible bestiary of tiny animals. That cliff, when you go over the edge, you just see blackness. And you shine your light down there, well, there's no bottom down there. Well, it's down there, but it could be 1,000 feet down. So you're looking really over the edge. And the Nautilus are living down there. So the extraordinary thing is to sit on the edge of that cliff at 100 feet, let's say, and you see these very faint white things coming up to you from the deep. The most extraordinary feeling. It's like being back in an ancient ocean where most of the animals swimming around were like the Nautilus, back when they were the rule. And to finally see them swimming about, and I just had this sense that this is not some ancient, slow, stupid creature. This is a survivor. It's a survivor for a good reason. You don't last 500 million years if you're poorly adapted.
The Nautilus was born of a winning strategy that combined a shell with buoyant locomotion. But soon, the battle for survival would change dramatically, thanks to a new weapon: speed. Fish had been around for millions of years, but now they began to evolve quicker, more agile bodies, which greatly enhanced their hunting skills. In time, the floating fortresses were outgunned. But mollusks fought back. Once again, mollusks retooled. One line embarked on a risky scheme. It would gain speed by forfeiting more and more of its heavy protective shell. In squid living today, only a thin remnant of shell remains on the animal's inside. Now it provides support for a streamlined body that's become a kind of natural rocket. Some squid are capable of accelerated bursts, traveling as fast as 20 miles per hour. Compared to the mollusks that came before, squid are superb swimmers. They improved on the jet propulsion system of nautiloids, sucking water into their body, then expelling it forcefully. And over time, they evolved a mantle wall that was muscular and strong. Elastic fibers in the muscle intensify the recoil that expels the jet of water. Triggering this action at lightning speed is a nerve system wired with giant nerve fibers. And every squid is powered by 3 hearts, which can pump blood and deliver oxygen as fast as in humans. The demands of the survival game pushed this line of mollusks a long way from their snail-paced origins. But beyond their speed and evasive maneuvers, squid went even farther, venturing into the deep sea. Some have evolved to live so deep that they are below the reach of many predators. To study them, scientists deploy remotely operated vehicles into the deep submarine canyons of Monterey Bay, California. Strange species of squid rarely seen before have been captured on film. These squid must survive the extraordinary rigors of the deep. And like so many mollusks, they have adapted in singularly creative ways. The vampire squid, named for the web of skin that looks like the Cape of Dracula. With strange eyes and paddle-like fins, it seems to have pushed the mollusk body plan to its limits. But another mollusk has gone even further, developing the most impressive weapon of all: intelligence. It is late in the day on Bunaken Island, one of the small volcanic islands in the Indonesian archipelago. The village fishermen have returned with a good tuna catch brought in by nets. But they enter the sea themselves in order to catch an especially clever prey. And even scientists do not yet understand how clever the octopus may actually be.
Many of the octopuses are known only by a name, maybe a specimen in a bottle. Nothing is known about their activity patterns, most of their behaviors, their mating behavior, what they eat, what time of day they're out there, whether or not they're poisonous. So there's really an untouched world when you consider octopus research.
Chrissy Hufford is a graduate student who has come to Indonesia in search of little-known octopuses. To learn where to look, she works with native fishermen.
Local guides like Samuel know the activity periods of the octopuses. They know what they eat. They know seasonality. They just know so much that you can't understand just by studying from books. You really have to come out into the field and see what they see, really to understand these animals.
One of Samuel's first suggestions: start the search at night, when many octopuses leave their dens to hunt through the concealing darkness.
One clue that I pick up that they are intelligent is when I dive and I find them, I can see that they've already found me first. I can see their eyes watching me and following me.
The first octopus they encounter emerges eyes first. It is the wonderpuss, named for its dazzling color displays, which stand out from the bland surroundings.
In some ways, octopuses break the rules of what many people picture the typical invertebrate to be, which is not very aware of the environment. Octopuses are incredibly curious. They have great sense of vision, chemoreception. They're very aware of their environment.
And they have to be. Descended from swimming ancestors, octopuses return to live on the bottom. a tremendously risky move for an animal without a protective shell. To survive there, the octopus made dramatic changes to the mollusk body plan. And its wily behaviors have captivated Chrissy Hufford. Indonesia's Lembeh Straits is a unique place to study the octopus. The volcanic cliffs constantly slough off, creating an unusual seabed layered with a powdery silt known simply as muck. Diving in this muck takes some getting used to. And for marine animals, it seems a barren setting with few places to hide. Many of the fish stay close to the bottom. The scorpionfish does more crawling than swimming. The cockatoo waspfish does its best to look like a dead and unappetizing leaf. In this watery desert, the clever octopus exploits any safe haven it can find. The veined octopus likes to squeeze into split coconuts for shelter. Scientists have long marveled at the extraordinary ability of the octopus to compress itself.
Octopuses are incredibly fluid animals. Since they're not restricted by bones or a shell, they can really take up any of the space that's around them in any way they choose. Being mollusks and having no shell, they're faced with challenges that most mollusks aren't faced with. So they have to protect themselves in other ways.
One way is the miracle of camouflage. The octopus can change color and texture in an instant. For the mollusk without a shell, nature invented the ultimate skin. Yet another brilliant design for the arms race.
They are able to make their skin very bumpy or pointy, or in some areas and flat in other parts of the body. They can change the color. It's very instant. They can change from looking like a rock to looking like a clump of algae, which is absolutely incredible in my mind.
Behind this gift for disguise is a large brain powering tens of thousands of color patterning cells in the skin, called chromatophores, which contain tiny sacs of pigment able to expand at the twitch of a nerve impulse. Just below are cells that act like mirrors, allowing the octopus's skin to reflect iridescent colors. A color pattern appears when the chromatophores are expanded. When they contract, the white or reflecting cells are revealed. Chromatophores can serve other purposes. The poisonous blue ring octopus flashes its colors as a warning.
Well, blue rings are one of the few octopuses that are deadly to humans, and this is warning coloration because they are so venomous. It's always very, very important to keep your distance, or if you do approach them, to approach them with an understanding of how quick and aggressive they can be. The range of colors and body shapes and behaviors being made by these animals, it's just absolutely out of this world. And when you dive in this area, you just feel like under every rock is a surprise.
Whether it's a small blue ring or a giant with tentacles 6 feet long, the octopus has become a commanding presence on the sea floor. Its early ancestors were at the mercy of shell breakers, such as crustaceans. But the arms race has taken the mollusks a very long way. Now the crab must reckon with the octopus. An adversary equipped with intelligence, an awesome ability for disguise, and a devastating 8-armed attack.
I think octopuses have really done well for animals that have soft bodies, that live in the bottom, that make the best of their daily routine. I think they have done quite well and maybe rival humans in some ways.
Driven by intelligence, we humans have devised countless creations to survive in a dangerous world. To change in an ever-changing world is perhaps the greatest secret of the survival game.